Hello and welcome back for another episode in my Unreal Engine 4 tutorial. This episode I'm going to show you how to do a wall switch that turns lights in a room off and on, and you can hook up as many lights to that single switch, and you can have multiple switches affecting different lights, so it's quite flexible and allows the user, the level designer that is, to decide how they want to use it in their levels. So to do this you need two different actors. So you first of all need the wall switch actor itself, and then a specific light actor that you can interact with via that switch. So I'm going to click on Add New, Blueprint Class, Actor, and I'm going to name this one Wall Switch. I've already got a model name that way. Hang on. Wall Button. There you go. And make another one, Blueprint Class, Actor, Light Button. Okay, so the light button will be the light that's affected by a button, and the wall button will be the actual button on the wall. So I'm going to start off with the wall button. So open up your wall button actor, and I've already made a model for this and imported it in, and you can download that same model in the description below, or you can make your own. You can do whatever you like, it's up to you entirely, but we need to add this to our actor. So on the component list in the left hand side, click on Add Component, Static Mesh. And here I want to choose in the details side which mesh I want to use. So for this one I want my wall switch. So wall switch. There you go. And there's the model I made earlier. So I'm going to raise this off the floor a bit. Looking at this value here I can see the location of it in the Z, which is its vertical. So if I move that up, because I'm going to need the floor space in a second. So let's say put at 80, let's do it at 100. Okay, so 100, and then I want to add a trigger volume. Okay, so the trigger volume will be to detect whether or not the player is actually near the switch. Okay, so I'm going to click on Add Component, Box Collision. There it is, and I'm going to scale this down and move it. First of all, detach it from the mesh itself. Move it to the floor, closer to the scene root. Like so. Excellent. So with that done, the first thing I want to do, that's a bit too wide. There we go. First thing I want to do is test whether or not that's the right size. So I'm going to hit compile and close it and just drag it into the world. So here's the player model and there's the switch on the wall. If I click play now, I've already attached a torch to my thing, so I should be able to see it. Okay, it's way too small, so I need to scale that up. So let's go into my wall switch actor, click on this, and scale this up. So, and scale this up as well, like so. Close that again. I'm going to test it. There you go, that's a bit better. So my wall switch now looks like a good size, it's more noticeable, and that box trigger is going to be in front of that switch there. Okay, so we can now edit this so it can actually do something. So in your viewport, first of all, click on the box, and you want to change this to be a trigger, not a collision. So in the collision section in its details, you'll see a collision preset. Click on that and choose trigger. Now that means it will still trigger the code, the event, but it won't stop anything from entering it, which is what you want. So I'm going to go compile and go into the event graph. Okie dokie. So if you've done the door tutorial, this is very similar to how the door works. So we're going to enable the input when the player walks into the box, and when they walk out of it, I'm going to disable input. So right click with the box selected, right click and type in begin overlap, and you'll see this add-on component begin overlap. Click on that, and the one you want is the one with the box in brackets, referring to the box collision that we set up earlier. With that, drag out of here and go into cast to first person character. And you want to hook the other actor pin to the input into the cast. So this cast first person character, this takes this other actor and checks whether or not it is a first person character. If it is the first person character, then it will carry on. If it isn't, they won't do anything. So that means only the player can interact with the light switch. So once I've done that, drag off of here, and I want enable input, like so. And for this, we need an input of a player controller. So drag off this input and type in get player controller. That's it. So this node returns the current player's controller, the thing that's currently controlling the player character, this first person character. So that goes into it, enables the input for this character. So enable input means that our player can now interact with this actor. So I've got the begin overlap. I now need to disable the input when I end it. So again, click on the box in your component list, right click in the space and go end overlap, and add on component end overlap. And from that, it's exactly the same. So cast to first person character, other actor to the object pin, but this time you want disable input, not enable. So disable input, and you can hook the player controller up to the same function here. Excellent. Okay, so that's that bit done. Click compile. Right, so the next thing we need to do is add a variable to this. So bottom left hand corner, you'll see a section called variables, and you have a little plus icon. Click on the plus icon to add a new variable, and we want a boolean asking whether or not the switch is on. So is on, it's going to be the name of our boolean. Double check that it is a boolean, which is the red one. You can check here in the details panel, it says boolean, and you want to tick on the editable check radio button here. This means that it appears in the level editor, so the game designer can determine which lights are on by default and which ones are off when they're by default. And click compile. Okay, we're getting there. So we now need to make it so it can toggle this is on. So we've got a beginning overlap and end overlap. We now need to do the input for the player. So we're going to do it so when the player pushes the E key, it'll interact with the light switch. So do keyboard E. There we go. And from pressed, you want to go, sorry, not from pressed, you want to drag on is on. That makes no sense. Drag the is on variable onto the blueprint space, and you got get or set. You want to get is on, and from is on you drag out that and type in not, and you want a not boolean. And from not you want to go to set is on. So drag on is on. It's a lot. I'm saying on a lot. So drag on is on and click set this time, and you want to hook that up to that pin there. So what this thing does, this is a neat way of basically toggling the boolean. So boolean is a true or false statement. So is on is if it's true, not is a function which flips it, so it reverses whatever this value is. So is on is true, it now is not true and goes back into here. If it's not true, then it's not true, meaning it's true, and sets it back to being true. Hopefully that makes sense. This is a very neat way of doing it. And click compile. Okay, so we're going to leave this for now. We're going to come back to it later, and so we can close this. And now we're going to open up a light actor that we made. So for this we just need one component, and that's the actual light itself. So click on add component, point light, like so. And you can change the settings here, how much you want, so intensity, light color, so on and so forth. I'm not going to bother with that. You can decide what you do with that. Down to you entirely. So going to event graph, and I'm going to clear all this, don't want it. So this is where it gets a bit more interesting. So we need to make a couple of things. First of all, we need to make a new variable. So click on variable, and this one it'll be switch actor. So the switch actor is a special type of variable. In the variable type, click on the drop down, and in the search box type in the word actor, and you'll see object types actor. And once you've done that, click on editable. So what this does, this allows us to set in the level editor which actor is going to be a link to this light. So what we're going to do is say in the level editor which switch this light is affected by, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. Once you've ticked the editable, click on compile, and that's what we want. Okay. Right, so first of all we need to get it so it knows what its beginning state is. So we need to do a begin play, and from begin play we're going to get to look at what its switch actor is and check whether the switch is either on or off. So at the start of the game it knows whether or not the light should be on or off. So to do that, what you do is do that cast method again. So you drag out the execute and do cast to, but this time you want to type in wall button. Okay, so it casts to the wall button, and the object you want to pass into the wall button is this variable here. So drag out switch actor and do a get and hook that up to object. So what that does, this double checks that the level designer has chosen a switch for this light. If he has, great, we'll now move on and we can reference that particular wall button that's been linked to this particular light. So as wall button, if you drag that out, you can be able to search for the is on variable that we made earlier. So type in is on, you see get is on. So this will find the wall switch that we associate to this light and then figure out whether or not it's on or off by default. So if it's on, we're going to pass that into visibility of our point light. So click on point light, drag out of cast, and do set visible. Ooh. Visibility of point light. There we go. And new visibility and is on should be linked up together. So when the game starts, it will look for the switch that's been associated to it and look whether or not if it's on or off. If it's on, the light will be on. If it's off, then it will turn it off. Okay, so that's the beginning part. We now need to make it so it can update when the switch is hit. Now we could do a tick. So you can do a tick event, and this means it happens all the time. However, that's quite inefficient. We don't always want to check whether or not the players hit the switch or not. So we're going to do something a bit more clever than that, and we're going to make our own function. So the function we want to make is done by going into the functions section in the bottom left. So near the variables you'll see functions, and you can click on the plus symbol to click on add new function. And this one I'm going to call it switch light. So that's the name of our function. Okie dokie. So switch light is now going to do the same sort of thing here. So it's going to check whether or not I've got an actor associated to it, and then check for its on value. So from that I'm going to copy all of this, go into the switch light and paste it all back like so. So this will update when I'm calling this function. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Click compile and we're done here. We can move on. So now we go back to our wall button, and where we've done the push E key, after the set you want to be able to access the switch function that we just done. However, we don't know which lights this switch is associated to. So what we need to do is do a for loop, for each loop, sorry, for all the lights in the level. So from set, you want to type in get all actors of class. So get all actors of class, and this input actors of class allows us to choose which class we want to get all of. So from this drop down, I'm going to search for my light. So light button. So what this does, it looks around the whole entire level and returns all the actors in the level of this particular class, light button. And it's going to store this in an array. See, our actors. And then this means it's an array, this little square. So drag out this array, and you want to type in for each, and do a for each loop. And hook up the executes for that. So this for each loop will go through this array. So an array is like a list. So it's a list of all the light buttons that we've got in our world. And in that list, it's going to loop round doing everything at least once. Okay. So the loop body, drag out of there. We want this to be able to call this function that we've got on our light button. So to access that, you use this array element. So this spits out the particular light button reference that the loop is currently going through. So drag off of there, and you want to type in switch light, and you see this function, switch light. This is the function we made earlier. Magic, isn't it? Click on that, and now you can hook that up to that. So that means this is going to go through each of our lights in the whole entire level and run that function on every single one of those lights as soon as we hit the E key. So I'm going to click compile and close that. And so if we now look at our light switch, so our wall switch has got a detail now of is on, so we can determine whether the light is on or off by default. And now we can put in some lights. So drag in the light buttons, and I'm going to drag this over here, like so. That'll do. And you'll see here it's asking for a switch actor, and if you click on this drop down, this returns in your world outliner all of the actors that are currently in a level. So if you've got multiple switches, you can choose which switch this light is affected by. So I'm going to click on my wall button, meaning that now this is only affected by this switch. And I can have multiple lights of this. I can duplicate this by holding down Alt, wall button there, and to check that this works, I'm going to drag another one out, and I'm going to change the switch actor to none. So when I hit the switch, these two should turn on, this one should remain off. So I'm going to change that one, that's visibility, by clicking on point light, and there is it, visible, turn it off. Okay, so this one is off by default. These ones are going to be on or off based on this wall switch, which is currently off, so these should be off as well. When I hit the switch, these two should turn on, this one should stay off. Let's fingers crossed, hopefully I've done everything correct. So here's the switch, walk up to it, hit E, ta-da, these lights could go on, this one stayed off. And I can go up to the switch again, hit E, and turn off. And that's how you do a wall switch. Pretty cool, eh? And to show you it works with multiple wall switches, I can drag in another wall button over here, say, and go to this switch here, this light button here, and associate it to that switch. So I'm going to go from here, wall button 2, and to show it's a little bit different, I'm just going to go into the point light and change its colour so you can see it a bit better, like so. So this switch over here does the first ones we made. See, that one still turns off. And I can go to this switch over here. Oh, it's turned around. I've got it back to front. Silly me. There you go. Let's try it again. So I hit over this switch here. Turns these two on. This one's still off. Go to this one. Turn this one on. See? This is really flexible, and once it's set up, you can put in as many as you like, and it's really simple to do. Not too much work. Hopefully all that made sense. We've done quite a few more advanced things, such as creating your own functions in your light button. So switch the light function. But hopefully it made a lot of sense. If you do get stuck or have any questions, please leave a comment below on the video, and I'll try and answer them as best I can and figure out where people have gone wrong. And let us know if you have any suggestions for future videos, other things you want to see how they're done. Please like, subscribe, share this with everyone you know, and that'll do until next time.